here at EntreLeadership, and we want to welcome all of you, thousands of you, literally from around the country, to today's webinar that is all about mastering the art of leading effectively with goals. Boy, if we have ever done a timely webinar, this is the timely webinar. It is goal setting season, folks, and hopefully you are in a stage where you're thinking critically about your annual plan and about what you're going to do to move your business forward this year. Now, we've got some incredible content around this topic that we've seen has the ability to transform businesses and transform leaders. We want to make sure you're engaged. So make sure you turn off everything that's going on in the background. Make sure you get ready to get down to business. Really be focused on this and think not just about the content, but how you can apply the content in your situation, and make sure you silence your phone.
That's right. We don't like teaching to just a box here.
That's
so we
right.
want to know who's in the room with us. So in the chat box, go ahead and let us know. Who are you? Where are you? What's your business? Like Alex said, we get folks joining from all over the country, sometimes even all over the world. Thousands of different people, hundreds of different industries, but we want to know, who are you, where are you from, and what's your business?
Emily already gave us a hey y'all, and of course she's from the great state, or should I say nation of Texas. Emily, we're so glad to have you. Mima from Orlando, Florida, welcome. Again, make sure you're leveraging that chat. Go ahead and put who you are, where you're from, what you do. And then also, we're going to be using that chat throughout the session. We've got our producers behind the scenes that are pulling questions. So as you have questions, as we're going through this content, go ahead and put those in there so that we can address those as we go. And then we're also saving some extended time at the end to really roll up our sleeves and get in depth on the topic of goal setting for your business and the questions you have around that. So make sure you're putting questions in the chat as we go.
A lot of folks from Texas, Georgia, Colorado, but most importantly, Rebecca from right here in Franklin, Tennessee.
There you go, right down the road. You could just come join us here. Just sit in the studio with us.
Sat in the production booth over there. Got a lot of folks in other Texas. Beth from Columbus, Daniel from Missouri. I love it. Amy from Georgia. Houston. Look at this. Houston. 3 Houstons in a row.
The nation of Texas is showing up strong today. I love it. Hey, I'm going to ask you to put another thing in the chat real quick, and that's, why are you here? What are you looking to get out of today's session? We know that growth often occurs most deliberately whenever you do it with a sense of intent and a sense of purpose. So what's your purpose for being here? What are you looking to get out of this today? Go ahead and put that in the chat. We'll check in on those here in just a few seconds. Also, we want to let you know that along with the questions at the end of today's session, we're going to be giving away a free video lesson from our founder and CEO, Dave Ramsey. That's something that we don't give away that often, so we're excited about this. Make sure you stick around to be able to get that video at the end of today's session. But let's jump into really our purpose for teaching this specific webinar.
Yeah, we know you all are here. It's a goal-setting webinar. We're going to get to specifics here in just a second. But, we are here because of you. You all are small business owners. I believe we could consider you the backbone of the economy. You're what makes this nation, this economy tick. I think it's what happens on Main Street that really matters, not Wall Street. Thank God we're not dependent on Wall Street or worship at D.C. For what goes on in the economy. It's because of you all. We're also here to give you a little bit of a glimpse, kind of behind the curtain, into EntreLeadership, what we would consider to be Dave's playbook. And we're really here because we always joke that our school colors are black and blue. We're here because what we are teaching you works. I would say it's probably as close to science as you can get as it relates to business, building a business success. It's working. We've actually been named one of the top places to work in Nashville 11 times. In fact, this last year, we were the #1 place, not talking just made the list. We were the top of the list in terms of the best places to work in the city.
Absolutely. We've got some incredible answers as to why people are here. People are saying we need to exceed last year's goals. I love that. Best practices for setting and leading with goals. We're going to talk about a lot on the leadership side of it as well today, to find a way to take my business to the next level, take it to the next stage. We're deep in goal setting as an organization, and we want to make sure we're doing it the right way. I coach women and work on goal setting frequently, so this is great content for me. Outstanding here to get 2020 started with a refresher on goal setting. Absolutely, and that's what we want you to know is if you're in alignment with those reasons as to why you're here, we're really, really excited, because the reason why we exist is to help the small business owner win. We win when you win, and we want to help you succeed today. Now, a lot of the stuff you're going to hear today is not going to be revolutionary. It's going to be reminders, but reminders are powerful if they can compel you to action. And so if you're serious about taking action, here's how you're going to know if the content today is going to be effective for you in the seat and the stage that you're in. Number one, if you want 2020 to be your most productive and successful year ever, if you're not really in for that, if that doesn't sound appealing to you, I'm really not sure this is the webinar for you. You could probably go to some mediocrity webinar. I'm sure someone is hosting one of those and you can log into that. That'd be great for you, but this probably isn't the one. Number two, you want to set team goals that work with your overall vision. We're going to use this quote a lot. Jim Collins says that leadership is 1% vision and 99% alignment. So often we don't focus on that critical topic of alignment, and we're going to dive deep into that today. And then finally, you want to lead more effectively and empower your team. I saw lots of people say, I know I'm the lid of my organization, so I want to make sure that I'm lifting people up by lifting myself up, and certainly we're going to do that today. So if you're in for that, and not really just if you're in for that, if you're all in and you're saying, yes, I want that today, I want to opt in for that type of content, go ahead and put a yes in the chat. We want to make sure that we've got the right people here on the webinar today. So again, if you're in for all those things, put a yes in the chat, and let's kind of jump into what they're going to be learning in the content here today.
Well, I know we've struck a nerve because yes,
this is what I need.
This is what I need. All those are coming in. Yeah, we have struck in all caps. That's your love language
that's
right there. All caps.
Live life on caps lock. Amen.
Yeah, that's we have struck a nerve, and so we know that this is hitting the mark with a lot of you. Now, I want to run through what you're going to learn today, what you can expect out of this webinar. Number one, why you need a goal setting system, and we're going to show you how to build one. So we're going to talk about the importance and the execution of that. Number two, we're going to talk about how to get every employee to care like you do and become extremely, insanely, unbelievably productive. Type a heck yes in the chat box if you want that. Three, we're going to talk about where to focus your energy and how to maximize your ROI. I owned a business for 10 years. I know time is a commodity. It is finite. And so we want to make sure that as we're goal setting, as we're trying to lead our businesses, our companies, we need to make sure we are maximizing the ROI on our time so that we get the most bang for our buck. So we're going to talk about where to focus. Number four, we're going to talk about how to use goals to make better decisions faster. This isn't just about setting goals and forgetting them, but we're going to use those goals to help dictate the decisions that we make so we can move at a speed that is efficient. And five, we're going to talk about the most common goal-setting mistakes and, probably more importantly, how to avoid them. Because we've known the mistakes. How do we know it? Well, we have Dave who's gone ahead of us, made a ton of mistakes. We make a ton of mistakes. I've set goals every year for the past probably, 5, 7, 8 years, and made mistakes. So we're gonna give you a little glimpse into our lives, talking not only about how to set them, but how to avoid those pitfalls. But here's the bottom line. Some of you may consider yourself the boss of your organization. If you're a boss, you create goals for your team. If you're an entree leader, what we're teaching on today, that's where you're able to get your team's buy-in and align goals to drive business in the direction that it needs to go. You're setting the trajectory, you're setting the course, and you're getting your team to come along on that journey with you. Dwight D. Eisenhower, you got your Texas shout out in there. I'm going to get my Kansas shout out in there.
That's right. He is
from the great state of Kansas. He says, leadership is the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because he or she, that person, wants to do it. Now, doesn't that just sound like utopia, right? Some of you are going, yeah, right, I don't have that type of team. Well, you're going to have to probably look at your team a little bit different after today's webinar as we start to coordinate and correlate our goals with the trajectory that we're headed with the team we have in place already.
And there's a stat that really hits home the idea of why this content is so important. And the reason why it's so important is it's so abnormal. It says that only 3% of adults have clear, written, specific, measurable, time-bound goals. So here's the deal. If you do this, you don't even have to be perfect at it. If you do this, you have a competitive advantage over 97% of the adult population. Excuse me? When's the last time you could get a 97% advantage on anything, right? That's crazy. There is so much opportunity here, but we would argue that because you're a leader, there's so much responsibility here. You have a responsibility for providing your team with a clear direction. And we see that when teams understand why they exist, but also where they're going, that's when great things start to happen. That's when organizations start moving forward and people want to be a part of that. So let's go ahead and jump into the content. We're gonna establish, first of all, the things that we hope everyone kind of already knows, kind of the fundamentals of goal setting. Goals that work must meet a couple criteria. The first is that they must be specific, right? We're not gonna say we're not gonna lose weight someday. We're not gonna lose some weight, right? We're gonna be specific. We're not just gonna grow in revenue. How much revenue? We're not gonna serve some more customers. How many customers? Right, associated with that, they need to be measurable. We need to be able to know at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the month, even at the end of the day, did we win or did we not? Yes or no? That's what we're talking about when we're talking about measurement. We're going to spend a lot of time on that towards the end of today's session. Also, you need to make sure they have a time limit. You know just as well as we do that human beings and ourselves are capable of incredible things when our back is against the wall. And so many people, how many of you would say, yeah, guilty, I'm a procrastinator? Put guilty in the chat if you are a procrastinator.
Do you think they'll put it right now?
Yeah, yes,
or will they wait a little bit?
Yeah, that's right. They'll wait to put procrastinator in the chat. That's right. Go ahead and put guilty in the chat if you are. I've been guilty of that, and I think
if I could type, I would.
That's right. I think it's human nature to procrastinate. Yeah. If you don't have a deadline, you're not procrastinating towards anything, and you run the risk of procrastinating the entire year. Right? And you procrastinated and suddenly it's December 28th and you still haven't set your 2020 goals yet. What on earth are we doing? So a deadline at least leverages that human nature to make sure that you've got a deadline, you've got something that you have to do. And even if you're doing it right before the deadline, at least you're doing it. And then it's going to be yours. If your dad wanted you to be a pastor, I don't want you to be my pastor. If your mom wanted you to be a dentist, you better not get inside my teeth, right? These need to be your goals. And similar to that, we're going to talk about the topic of buy-in. The team needs to know these are their goals too. And then finally, these goals have to be in writing. All of the data shows that whenever you put things on paper on purpose, something occurs in your brain where you as a leader and you as an individual start to take it more seriously. And so those are the fundamentals. Those are the basics. We need to make sure that if you create any goals out of today's session, which I hope you do because that's going to be on our action plan today, that it meets all of those criteria. But let's really start to walk through the steps of how to do this as a leader and for the team as a whole. And that really starts with the roadmap.
It does. I just want to call out, Rod said in response to your procrastination question, he'll respond in a little bit. So good job, Rod.
Clever.
Good job. Well played. All right, so step one of goal setting is we have to create a roadmap. We got to know where the heck we're going. J.C. Penney says the best teamwork comes from men who are working independently toward one goal in unison. If you've never heard the story of the draft horses that pull sleds and things like that, one can pull 8,000 pounds. I think two can pull 24,000 pounds. So it's not double, it's actually triple. So they're pulling independently, but together they are stronger than one person on their own. So we want to create this roadmap. I've never gotten in the car for family vacation and not known where I'm going. This is the same thing. You have to have a vision for where you want to go. And these goals that we're talking about today are really nothing more than bite-sized visions. They're just taking this thing that we want to do in 2020 and we're breaking it down into smaller bites. Goals are also going to convert your vision into energy. Goals get your butt up off the couch, get you out from behind the desk, or get you picking up the phone, or whatever you need to do to reach that goal that you have in front of you. They create energy. If you haven't already, we're early into the year, so there's still time. I want you to determine your top goal or objective for 2020. What the heck do you want to accomplish this year? Now, Zig Ziglar talks about the Wheel of Life, 7 different categories. So whatever your top goal, I would say goals, plural, are, make sure they're balanced in that Wheel of Life. So break them down. Once you get that goal, break it down into 4 milestones, one for each quarter. We would call this a strategic quarterly priority. something that's not tactical. It's not boots on the ground day to day. It's up higher, 30,000 foot view, strategic. It's quarterly, meaning it's going to take you about 90 days. I don't want something that's done in a week to be a quarterly priority. It's going to take you about 90 days to get it. And we want it to be a not only strategic, not only quarterly, but a priority. Is it something that needs to be done now? So as you're breaking these milestones down, something that needs to be or can be done in Q4, that's going to be the Q4 priority. That's going to be the Q4 milestone. That's not going to be the Q1 milestone. So here's the action plan out of this first step. I want you to put today, not necessarily for today, but make sure you block it out today. Put time on your calendar to walk through the goal setting process. Create your roadmap. Again, if you're going on vacation, you're not going to not know where you're going. You're going to get in that car with your family and have a very clear idea of where you will end up at the end of that drive, at the end of that trip. So create that roadmap. Please, please, please take the time to do it. You will thank yourself at the end of 2020. Your team will, your family will, your business will thank yourself, hopefully in the form of money.
That's right. And
Related
related to
served,
that,
we're going to make a big impact in 2020.
can you tell them a little bit about how we did that here as an entire organization in 2019 and just the impact that had on our team as a whole?
Yeah, at the beginning of 2019, one of our leaders stood up and said, we have kind of a creed or a motto for 2019, and our goal was to serve 3 million lives. 3 million of you, we wanted to serve you, touch you, impact you, your families, your budgets, your finances, your business. We set out to have a goal to serve 3 million people. And Dave always says, if you serve enough people, you're not gonna have to worry about money. I don't know what the financial outcome was in 2019, but I can tell you we served 3.3 million people last year. We exceeded our goal by just over 10%, 3.3 and change million people. So getting a goal, rallying around it, and then explaining to every person, every department, every team what their impact is towards the overall goal is incredibly powerful.
It was remarkable. And the way we defined life serve was if someone puts skin in the game, so if someone buys a book or a membership or certainly goes to one of our events, if they put some of their hard-earned money into what we are doing because they're opting in for themselves to be changed or to be transformed or to be served, that's what we count. And we pass through.
Yeah.
It's crazy how when you just announce a metric to a team that everyone believes in, it changes the dynamic of the room like that. So again, drafting that roadmap, but then exactly what John just said, one of our leaders got on the stage and talked about it. And that's what we're jumping into here on step 2, share your goals and objectives. Now there's a difference here between sharing your goals and objectives and giving goals and objectives, right? If you're just handing out goals to people and say, this is what you're gonna do this year, this is what you're gonna do this year, and here's how you're gonna do it this year, that's not a goal, that's a quota. And that's not leadership. That's called being a jerk, right? We don't want to do that. We don't just want to tell people what they're going to do. People act the way you treat them. If you treat them like units of production, don't be surprised when, number one, they act like units of production. Number two, they leave. So we need to treat people like people and let them be invested in their growth. It is a powerful day when someone takes responsibility for their own personal growth. And if you as a leader can give someone that opportunity and unleash that in other people, that's the type of leadership that we know you want to be a part of. That's why you're here today. Andrew Carnegie says that teamwork is the ability to work together toward a common vision. It is the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results. There's that whole line, it's an African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Inherent in that is that we're going far together in the same direction, right? If we're going a bunch of different directions, we're not going to be together for very long. So it's crucial that you get everyone on the same page. Kim Blanchard also says that none of us is as smart as all of us. If we truly believe that, if we truly, truly believe that, then one of your highest and greatest opportunities as a leader is to elicit buy-in from your team on the goals and the vision that you have for your business. If you truly believe that you're better together than you are alone, then this has got to be one of your top priorities. So when you cast a big vision, the team starts to naturally see the part they play. They start to connect their role to the long-term goal. And so here's what that looked like in our context is they said, we're going to serve 3 million lives, 3 million lives. When we serve someone, that's because they put skin in the game. And immediately everyone started to think, okay, well, I'm a salesperson. I can do that pretty directly. Or someone thought, okay, well, I'm a support person. I can support making sure that we're getting people in the right. Think about when someone's on a customer service call, that changes the way they take that call because they know this is what we're about, this is where we're going, and this is what we do in our organization. 3 million lives served. It changes the dynamic, and people start to intuitively feed into that narrative of where your business is going.
And I would say too, those are easy in those roles. Sales, for example, it's easy to count the metrics, right? It's easy to track the metrics of, well, I sold X amount of people, so that's X amount of lives served. But think about, we have 900 and almost 50 people here, the web developers who are writing code. How the heck do we track the metrics of how many people they have served? Well, if they take the checkout process on daveramsey.com to buy a book down from 10 steps to 4 steps, we can track how much more engagement, how much more click-through, how many more sales we have because somebody didn't get sick and tired of the checkout process on step 6 and say, forget it, I'm out of here, I'll go to Amazon and buy the book. So think of ways, if this is your metric, if this is your 2020 goal, think of ways to get everybody involved and tell them, share with them, and maybe even have them kind of ante up for what contribution they are going to make to the overall goal, because you can take 1,000 people and have them all moving and pulling towards the same outcome.
Absolutely. Remember that sharing your dream and goals pulls people into them instead of pushing them. A boss pushes, a leader pulls and says, hey, this is where we're going. We're so excited to go this year. If you can cast a compelling vision and then rally people around that vision of where you're going, that's what leadership is. If you cast a compelling vision and you look behind you and there's no one following you, you're not leading at all. You're just taking a walk is what the line says, right? And so we want to make sure you're leading. And part of that is to make sure you cast the vision in a way that is compelling, in a way that is powerful, and in a way that really, really pulls people into buying in and owning it like it is their own. Because it is. And then finally, mapping out the big picture also creates team buy-in. This is what we just said. When you start to explain to them how their individual role contributes to the overarching vision, people start to find meaning in their work. Patrick Lencioni says that there are 3 signs of a miserable job. If you want people to leave your company, just give them these 3 things and they'll leave like that. Immeasurement means, man, I don't know how I'm winning. I don't know what winning is, and I don't know if I'm winning or not. Immeasurement, irrelevance, right? What I do does not matter. And anonymity. They don't know me, and even if they did know me, they wouldn't care about me. Immeasurement, irrelevance, and anonymity. It's amazing how setting a compelling vision can start to attack and get rid of all 3 of those. So that's why this is so crucial. It will create employee engagement. It'll also make it crystal clear really quick who shouldn't be there, right? You'll find out real quick who is no longer a culture fit whenever you get serious about where we're going and why we're going that direction. Henry Ford says that if everyone is moving forward together, then success almost takes care of itself. The team will start to do this for you as well. I mean, we've all been on that team. I've been on that team. I know you have as well, where it's like everyone gets super serious about this goal. They set a stretch goal. It's going to require everyone to be at their absolute best, to work really, really hard. And then you got lazy Joe sitting in the corner that's on his cell phone.
I thought you were going to say Lazy John. You pointed to me for a second there.
No, he's in the corner. He's back there. Yeah. And it's like, boy, Lazy Joe isn't going to be on his cell phone very long because the team's going to get after him and they're going to say, you need to get your act together. But again, that comes from clarity. We said this at the beginning. Jim Collins says that building a visionary company requires 1% vision and 99% alignment. I think entrepreneurs in general, entrepreneurial people, fall probably more on the visionary side of the spectrum, right? You are starters. You love to create things. How many of you would say, we were talking about vision versus integrator? Integrator is, man, I love process, I love system, I love doing the work, but I don't like creating the new thing. How many of you would say vision is your area? Type vision in the chat if that's you. Yeah, amen. And then it's like when it comes to actually following through on the thing you created, you already moved on to something different. different, right? Yeah. How many of you have a new idea every time you take a shower, get on the treadmill, or get in the truck, right? Bad news. Here's what's crazy. That vision piece of us, it's a great thing. Of course, you need vision, right? You absolutely have to have that. 1% of leadership is vision. That's 1%. 99% is alignment. 99% is the hard, deliberate, intentional, not very sexy or glorified work of keeping everyone on the same page of where we're going. But that's what makes all the difference. Every team member must know the role they play toward reaching the milestone for the quarter. And again, they've got to have measurables associated with that. If y'all want to get more into how we do that individually in roles, we can address those questions. So if you've got questions on individual goals and how to get the team those, put those questions in the chat. We also said this at the beginning, individual team members can't have goals dictated to them. Instead, help them develop them, right? You need to sit down with them, and this requires one-on-one communication. We can also talk about our one-on-one meeting structure here if we would like to in Q&A at the end. But where you sit down and you really help them develop them and buy into them and own them and understand what goal setting looks like, that's going to get them to act like owners, and we know that's what you want. Here's the deal. You are responsible for your team's buy-in. Period. End of story. Many of you have probably read Jocko Willink's Extreme Ownership, and this is an extreme ownership statement. You, the business owner, is responsible for the buy-in of your team. We've coincided with people before that they say, man, we're moving in the right direction. My team just won't buy in. And they blame the team. It's not the team's fault. It is the leader's fault. Period. End of story. If the team is not bought in, it is because the leader has not led them to be bought in or has not had the courage to get rid of them and move on to someone else. If you are going to have a bought-in team during 2020, it will be because you created and led a bought-in team in 2020. Period. End of story. Because we cannot move forward unless we take ownership of this. We will not fix what we do not confront. And so if our team isn't bought in, we need to say that the only person whose problem this is the person that's in the mirror. And it's time to get after it and make sure that we're taking steps to create a team that is bought in. Another quick tip before we get on to the action plan on this, make sure you make a paper scorecard, right? And it doesn't have to be paper. A paper is really, really great. We want people to have a visual representation of what's going on with regard to their goals. This is what it looks like. This is literally a picture from one of our stand-up meetings where we say, okay, here's where we're at compared to where we need to be. And we just track where we're at. And I mean, you can see this. This doesn't take long. It's just Post-it notes and it's our goals list on the sheet. But everyone knows, okay, here's whether we're winning or not. And then look at what's below that picture. There's a printed out picture of an espresso machine. If we do this, we get an espresso machine.
That was the goal. That was the reward.
Yeah. You think people are hyper when they're going after the goals. Wait till you see them after they hit the goal, right? Then they got some espresso. Okay, so the action plan. Create a plan to get your team's buy-in and roll out the goal to your team. A plan is not, well, I'm going to tell them about it. That's not a plan, right? Think about a way. What are the actions you need to take to get people emotionally invested in this? People tell us all the time, I love coming to these webinars because they help me think about these things in a new way. This is one of those areas where we're going to challenge you to do that. Think about the plan to get team buy-in in a new way. Is it the way you present your goal? Is it bringing in a customer to help you present your goal? Is it making sure that you use the right metric? Is it unveiling a really creative scoreboard? There's so many things you could do. But think about the best possible way to get people emotionally invested.
That's right. Once you have them invested, we're going to get to step 3, which is measuring your success. I do want to hit a couple questions before we get there, but we're going to talk about how to, we showed you those scorecards, what do we do with those and how do we communicate around those? But before we do, Catalina asks, what's the best way to set a compelling vision? Are there some examples that we can share?
Yeah, well, the first thing we would say, if we're talking about setting versus casting, so the first thing you need to do is kind of catch the vision and then you need to cast the vision. So if we're talking about catching the vision and figuring out what it is, there are, I mean, if you go Google this, you will find 10,000 different ways to set a vision for your company. And a lot of them are actually pretty good if you stick with it. If you stick with it is the important part. The one that we teach in the program, and if you are part of our coaching program, you know this. The one that we refer to a lot is Jim Collins' BHAG model. How many of you have ever heard the phrase BHAG, right? It's big, hairy, audacious goal. It's a great acronym. I think it's almost kind of sad. A lot of people focus so much on the acronym and how funny it is. Oh, it's going to be big, hairy, audacious. I love it. That they don't actually focus on what it is, which is kind of a problem. Here's what a BHAG is, and this is what we kind of think of as the vision, because the vision should answer the question, this is where we're going. A BHAG is a 3 to 5 year goal that is 50 to 70% achievable. So now you need to do this in context of your dream for the company. So make sure you have your dream for the company, and then you're going to catch your vision. Your vision is a 3 to 5 year goal that is 50 to 70% achievable. And you start thinking through what that could be, and we've seen how if you can establish a metric that really, really supports your dream and long-term plan for the business, and you can rally people around that and say, hey, this is where we're going, and you use that phrase over and over again, this is where we're going, this is where we're going, this is where we're going. People start to, again, fill in the holes, but they start to get really excited to be where they are.
Yeah, and this is a BHAG. This is not a sandbag. So it's right. So if it's 50 to 70% attainable, it's not like,
That's right.
oh, we could easily do $1 million. So we're going to set it at $2 million because $1 million is 50% of 2. No, that's not what we're saying. Stretch your team a little bit. Stretch yourself. Stretch your dreams. Frankly, what is just outside of doable?
Yes.
Or maybe just a little bit more outside of doable.
Because that's compelling.
It is compelling.
I'll sign up for that.
Yeah, we honestly, frankly, we had one here in EntreLeadership a couple years ago. We did a monetary goal that was big.
Yeah.
It was a big goal. And guess what? We didn't hit it. Full transparency, we didn't hit it. We had a very, very, very successful year. And we didn't hit our big stretch goal. But you know what? We were all, to December 31st, we were all pushing towards that stretch goal. So think 3 to 5 years down the road. Don't sandbag it, okay? It's big, hairy, audacious, yep, but don't sandbag it. Don't come up with something that you know you're going to do and then just double it because you're at 50%.
If you set goals that you only know you're going to hit, like you can clearly identify how you're going to get there and that you're going to get there, barring some earthquake or something like that, it's like, what's the point?
What's the point? Yeah.
Like, we need to have the confidence and the courage as a leader to set things that are currently out of reach.
Yeah, I agree. So we've talked about the goals. Now we're going to talk about how to measure your success. This is step number 3. I will tell you all that what you measure matters. Whether it's weight loss or tracking food or you want to hit all 50 states, whatever it is that the goal is, what you measure matters. So you need to be able to frequently monitor your progress to increase your and your team's chances of success. Alex hit on the dashboard that we talked about a little bit ago. These dashboards should be quick. They should be easy to read. They shouldn't. Your team shouldn't have to sit there and think about it and carry the one and do all the work of actually trying to figure out what the heck this dashboard says. We had a couple examples of them. One is is just hand drawn. It's
Q2 explosion.
Yeah, Q2 explosion, 250 all new, new all access members. You can do this with a marker and a big old flip chart, a big old sticky note that you can then post on the wall. This the other example we have was done on the computer. We had one of our designers do it. We had a BHAG of 20,000 members by 2020. And we were showing the steps and the progress along the way, what it would look like to actually reach this goal. Whatever it looks like for you, whether it's hand-drawn, whether it's on the computer. Now we've gone to digital dashboards where you can walk by at any given time and see, with our sales team in particular, how many calls they've made that day, how long of talk time they've had. We get updates on sales, ticket sales, overall revenue, churn, how many people are, maybe wanted a refund on an event or something. They couldn't make it, had something come up, an emergency last minute, and we talk about, okay, great. We've had a few people who backed out. That opened up a few more seats, and we're constantly monitoring, not only at the leadership level, but with the team, where we are, how we're progressing. Are we behind pace? Are we on pace? Are we ahead of pace? We talk about this, and we do this in our check-ins. So we have a weekly team stand-up every Thursday morning. We 60, 70 some odd of us, we all stand up in a circle and we get updates every week, every Thursday morning about where we are, new hires that are coming on, role changes, maybe somebody moved from sales to sales leader, et cetera. We're talking about all this stuff on a weekly basis. We're also getting together with our leaders weekly with doing one-on-one meetings. And then a lot of us as teams, we will have daily check-ins. As a coaching team, we've had seasons where we got together as a coaching team for 10 or 15 minutes at the beginning of the day just to say, all right, Alex, what are you working on? Brian, what are you working on? John, what are you working on? We all get on the same page. The bottom of at the end of the day, the bottom line is that the reason we do this is because we want activities that are moving us towards our goal to be repeated. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, whether it's goal related or whether it's compensation related, you have to reward what you want repeated. If you want somebody selling tickets to your event, you better be paying your salespeople commission on tickets sold. You have to reward what you want repeated. So here's the action plan out of step 3. I want you to create a performance dashboard for each quarter. We talked about the milestones that you're going to hit, or that you're going to break down your annual goal into those 4 milestones, one for each quarter. Create a dashboard. Decide how you're going to measure it. And gang, this could be something as simple and as cheesy as the thermometer. You remember the thermometer at like churches when they're doing like a capital campaign to raise money for the new building or to pave the parking lot or whatever, and you're coloring it in with a red Sharpie. Hey, we're here, now we're here, and you start to see that temperature rise, and you start to see that thermometer getting filled up. I don't care what it looks like. I don't care how extravagant it is, how simple it is, just create it. Now, here's our first giveaway. We told you we were going to tell you how to get Dave's teaching on the power of intentionality. That's all about goal setting, what we're talking about today, but going even deeper. I want you to go to entreleadership.com/power to get that teaching. Free, yours, no strings attached. Go get it, go watch it, and guess what? Share it with your team. Have a lunch and learn. Hey, lunch is on me on Friday. Everybody in the conference room, I'm going to hit play on this video. We're going to listen to Dave Ramsey talk about what it looks like to set goals and to achieve goals and what it means to be intentional about reaching those. So, entreleadership.com/power. That video's yours, free of charge.
Absolutely. A couple questions before we move on to the final step. Please address how to come up with measurements. So you talked about how we had 3 million lives served, and we talked about that metric. I think there is a lot of importance to having the right metric. Mm-hmm. So what would you encourage to think about with regard to what they're measuring?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it has to make sense to your company and to your mission. Mm-hmm. I think whatever goal you choose has to be somewhat, and I would argue not even loosely, but very closely correlated to your mission. So the essence of our mission statement is to bring hope to everyone in every walk of life. We have 13, 14 different P&Ls here, so there's over a dozen different ways that we do that and what that looks like to bring hope. We at Entre bring hope in the business world. Financial Peace brings hope in the personal finance world, et cetera. So we have an education department, things like that. At the end of the day, bottom line, we bring hope. So our goal of 3 million lives served is tied to bringing hope. Mm-hmm. So we wanted to move away from a dollar amount, and I have to wonder, I don't know if this is true, but I have to wonder if leadership in the room when they were developing this said, I wonder if, or I wonder what would be the financial outcome if we really truly believed in and followed our own advice of if you serve enough people, you don't have to worry about money. Like I said, I don't know what the financial outcome was of the company, but I do know we hit 3.3 million.
And that profit sharing was up almost every single month last year.
Yes, yeah, because we share those numbers as well. Every month, our CFO gets up and talks about the percentage increase or decrease on profit sharing. Profit sharing was up, I don't even know, 10, 15% year over year. It was a good year because we didn't worry about the financial number. We worried about the people number, which ties back to our mission of bringing hope to everyone in every walk of life. So make sure that those two things are tied very, very closely together.
And I think it's important to say we are not opposed to revenue goals. We have those out the wazoo as well.
We are capitalists.
Yeah, that's right.
We go out and kill it and drag it home and eat it. Like, we are not embarrassed or ashamed to say We are capitalists. We are here. We are not a nonprofit, which is just a tax code, by the way. We are not a nonprofit. We're here to make money, but 3 million lives served is what will be the catalyst to make money.
That's right. And so if you want to establish a revenue goal, that's fine. Just recognize that you are then bearing the responsibility as the leader, that you have to draw that connection because the goal isn't drawing that connection for you. So you have to say, hey, we celebrate dollars and cents not because they're dollars and cents. We celebrate dollars and cents because they represent people. They represent individuals' lives. You just have to make sure that you do that as a leader. Otherwise, that will get lost. And you have to do it all the time. Let's jump into step 4, which is all about celebrate. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate.
Come on.
Celebrate the small wins, celebrate the big wins, celebrate the medium wins, right? Celebrate when you win. There is so much science, there's so much data that proves that celebrating your wins is just as important as achieving them. This is so crucial. And so often, whenever we have mastermind calls, the first thing we do on a mastermind call, some of you may be a part of our masterminds, is we'll go around and we'll go around to the people on the call and we'll say, hey, tell us one highlight or win from the past 30 days. I had a guy the other day that said, we just found out our team is up 57% year over year from last year. Or yes, 2019 was up 57% from 2018.
Wow.
And it's not like it was a business that just started. They had been in business for over a decade. And everyone gave him a digital standing ovation. It was amazing. And then we asked the question, how are you celebrating? And he said, I don't know. Oh my gosh, your team is going to leave because they're going to say, what was all this? What were we doing this whole time, right? You need to make sure you are recognizing and celebrating. How many of you are one of those people that you were such a doer, you are such an action-oriented person that the minute you climb the mountain, the first thing you're doing is looking for the next highest summit, right? How many of you are that person? This is dangerous. Celebration is a discipline of a great leader. And so failing to recognize your team for all of their hard work, that's going to demotivate them. It's going to contribute to immeasurement, irrelevance, and anonymity that we talked about earlier. When you take the time to celebrate not just the big victories, but the small victories along the way, that does a powerful thing to morale. It keeps people motivated. It keeps people engaged. It keeps people caring, right? Because for you as the business owner, you draw the connection intuitively in your mind of how the business does to your personal welfare. Whenever you work as a receptionist or even sometimes a salesperson or certainly as a service-oriented position, it can be harder to draw those mental connections, certainly if you're new. And so as a leader, it's your responsibility. Take ownership of that and say, I'm going to make it as crystal clear as possible. When we do a good thing, we're going to celebrate the fact that we did a good thing. And we're going to draw attention to it, and we're going to pause. Make sure the celebration is just as big as the victory, right? If you have a $2 million year, don't give people a $5 Starbucks gift card. That does thanks, right? I mean, I know I really like Starbucks, but it's if you had a $2 million year, you better do something like our field day, or you better have a Christmas party or something like that, right? Do something that's out of this world that people talk about. You want to talk about a great recruiting plan. You want to get great talent, focus on creating the great place to work. And a great place to work is a place that is winning and a place that celebrates when they win. Mm-hmm. It's funny, college football this year, I feel like last year is when it started, or maybe 2 years ago, the tradition of the coach dancing in the locker room after the game and after the win. And you get these 60-year-old men that probably haven't seen a dance floor in 30 years minimum. Yeah. And they're dancing. These guys go crazy, right? And you should go look up on YouTube, not right now, don't you dare do it right now, but go after this, look up Mac Brown locker room dance. Hilarious. But it's because these leaders are starting to recognize the value of celebrating with their team. And their team goes bonkers about it. And the fans go bonkers about it. It's the value of celebration. So here's what I want you to do. Once you set your goal, decide before you even start moving towards the goal how you're going to celebrate. And it's up to you whether you want to keep that a secret and then unveil it, or you want to set it out and say this is the thing we're working towards. That is up to you, but it is important that you choose how you're going to celebrate before you start moving forward. Now, I think it's really, really important that people kind of remember that to put all of this in place at once is kind of crazy.
Yeah, we've thrown a lot at you. There's no doubt about that. We've covered a lot of different topics of and around goal setting. And here's what I don't want. I don't want you to come off this webinar and try to do it all at once, just go and bombard your team with all these new great ideas and scorecards and measurements and things like that. If there's something off this webinar that resonated with you, something that maybe that's kind of leading the pack a little bit of the things we've talked about, the area of focus that you go, you know what, I'm probably lacking the most in that, or this would make the most impact in my organization. Focus on that. Don't put everything into place at once, because you're kind of over this, hour and a half or so, kind of drinking from a fire hose. Don't go turn that fire hose then on your team. Make sure you take it kind of step by step. Mac Brown at Texas, I don't think he put everything in place all at once. There was a little bit of a system and a management of what he told the team when and how. And so we want you guys to do the same thing. Don't do this all at once. Let's step by step try to implement what we've taught you today.
That's right. And that connects really to something we talk about a lot around here internally, but because it's one of our core values. But then we've started to share this with business owners around the country. It's what we call the momentum theorem. And the momentum theorem states that focused intensity over time multiplied by the infinite power of God equals unstoppable momentum. We believe this, and the reason why we believe this is because we've seen it work its magic on our business, but in reality, it's not magic at all. Focused intensity over an extended period of time multiplied by God, that's what equals momentum in an organization and certainly in the life of a leader. Now, what we've noticed in our time working with small business owners, we work with people like you every single day, and we've realized that, man, we do not doubt your intensity, right? We don't doubt it, right? Intensity is kind of the price of admission for starting, running, and leading a small business, right? So we don't doubt your intensity. What we see most small business owners across the country are lacking is a sense of focus over an extended period of time. It's so difficult, and the deck is legitimately stacked against you to have a sense of focus over an extended period of time. But the business owners that we see are winning are the ones that have a plan for consistently executing on the things that matter most over an extended period of time. I was on one of our mastermind calls the other day. It's our coaching group. It's 6 to 10 business owners and one of our coaches, and we were meeting, and there's a guy on this call that's named Brian, and he called in. Brian has been in a rough season of business recently. He's kind of at that precipice where they're needing to take the next step. I think he has about 10 team members. He's realizing I'm needing to start develop some leaders. I need to figure out my strategy for this thing. I think Brian would even call himself an accidental CEO. Here's the thing. Brian recognizes all this. He recognizes that they're at kind of that okay, we need to level up place, and he's recognizing that he needs to start doing new things to get new results, and he's recognizing that he needs to start expanding his leadership capacity. He knows all of these things, but in his pursuit of all of that, he keeps getting pulled back into the business, into the whirlwind. There's a fire. There's a crisis. Something happens, a team member leaves. And in the size of a 10-person team, a team member leaves, that's 1/10 of your organization.
That's a big deal.
That rocks it, right? And so Brian is in this incredible struggle. How many of you would put a yes in the chat if it's like, yes, I identify with that struggle. I have either been there before or I'm there right now. That's me. And if you do know that struggle, if you have felt that struggle, then you know what it feels like to be on the treadmill of business, right? If you've been there before, or if you're currently there. And what we've found is that a lot of times on these webinars, we connect with people that either were there or are there currently, and they're starting to realize there's a better path forward. They're starting to find out okay, I know there's things that I can do. I just need to make sure I actually do it now. And what we've found is that the way that you start to level up, the way that you start to get off the treadmill of business and actually making progress to where you are no longer trapped by the thing that you built, to where you could actually take a vacation, that's a novel idea, wow, to where you have team members and you're actually starting to get to be the leader that you really want to be, is it requires a plan. And that's why we created All Access, is because we said, well, we've got this plan for us here at Ramsey Solutions. Let's start providing that plan for business owners. And so what you get whenever you join All Access is, number one, you get paired with a coach, and it's coaching. We know that you need someone that can help you answer your questions, point you in the right direction, but here's the big thing: help you lay out the plan of what you need to do and then hold you accountable to doing it. That will be there every single month, saying one powerful question, simple but powerful: did you do what you said you were going to do? That's a powerful question. So we all need coaching. We all need that person. But then that's not enough. We need content. We believe if you as an individual, and certainly as an organization, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so we've put together all of our resources, truly the nuts and bolts of what we do here, everything from delegation to compensation to effective goal setting for your team to culture to crafting a mission statement to creating core values. All of that is in our platform. And it's taught by Dave at one of our events called Master Series. It's taught by John and myself. It's taught by Chris Hogan. And it really walks you through practically like, okay, here's how you do this stuff so that you actually know and you make sure you're doing that right. Because profit sharing is not something you want to wing, right? You don't want to wing compensation plans. That's bad news. So, and then finally, we see that powerful things happen whenever business owners are surrounded by people that are smarter than they are. And specifically when it's people that can identify and empathize with what you're working on. You have a lot of responsibility that people who don't own a business cannot relate to. If you're talking to one of your team members or even one of your executives about this, that's awesome, and maybe it's a good person to talk to, but if you are the owner, you are bearing the sole responsibility for the highs and lows of this business. You need to talk to other people who know that feeling and who have been there and are probably a little bit ahead of you and can say, hey, here's what I did in your situation. And so it's those three things: the coaching, it's the resources, and it's the community of people that share your values that we've seen creates transformation and help you level up as a business. And that's everything you get in All Access. So if you have questions about the ins and outs, the practicality of how that works, obviously put those in the chat. But right now, if you sign up for All Access, you'll get $50 off every single month. So it's a monthly program. You get $50 off every single month. And the first thing that you're going to get if you sign up today is a one-on-one call with one of our coaches where we are literally just learning about your business, and then out of learning about your business and what hit home from this webinar, laying out a game plan for what you're going to do moving forward. So if you do want to sign up for All Access and save that $50 a month and get that one-on-one call today, use the promo code GOALS and go to entreleadership.com/all access. Again, that's entreleadership.com/all access. Make sure you use the promo code GOALS, and we're going to get you set up with a coach. We're going to get you moving in the right direction, and make sure you got a plan and then accountability around that plan.
Yeah, I always joke. I was an owner for 10 years, and I joke that if I'd had this program, I may not be here.
Yes, that's right. Business would be.
Yeah, I may still be in business. I'm sold after 10 years and had a little bit different role still within that company. But this I've seen this from a business owner perspective and the coach perspective. I've seen just how powerful something like this can be. If you're anything like me, you feel alone. You feel like you're on an island. You feel like you're the only one who has the problems you have. And I can tell you, the more I've been around owners, both as an owner and as a coach, I will tell you that's just not the case. There are a lot of people out there who feel isolated, who feel like they're on an island, and they're the only one who has that particular problem. It's just not true.
That's
it's
right.
just not true.
That's right. So again, if you have questions about All Access or honestly about anything else we've taught today, that's what this time is reserved for now. So let's go ahead and jump in. I'll ask you Kyle's question. If you have multiple departments and one goal for the company, do you have one dashboard with an overall number or metric, or one per department? How do you organize that?
We had both. If you walked around our facility at all last year, we had TV screens pretty much everywhere you looked, coming off the elevator, multiple on each floor. You would see the number to date of lives served. So we saw it when it was 1,000, and we saw it when it was 750,000 and 2.1 million, and we saw it start to climb. And so there would be a rolling total for the year. There was also under that a total of lives served for that day, so we could get a glimpse, again, snapshot, at a glance what the number is. But then inside of Entree, we had our own specific number that during those Thursday morning stand-up meetings we would update. And so our leadership team would say, all right, we have served X amount of people that this month. It's, today's I'll make up another, today's the 15th of the month. So we're 50% of the way through the month. We are at 47% of our goal of lives served, or we're at 62% or 87%. It would fluctuate based on different events, different people, times that people signed up and things like that. But we were getting updated on our piece of the pie and also the entire pie itself. And I know that we had our number, our ELP, Endorsed Local Providers, had their number, Education Solutions had theirs, Financial Peace had theirs. Everybody had their own number that they were chasing and tracking throughout the year.
Absolutely. And so, again, it's powerful to have one metric, but then sub-metrics under that are also powerful. Catalina asked, is this a yearly contract? I assume you're referring to All Access. It is a monthly contract, so you sign up for a month at a time. Obviously, if you decide, man, this isn't working for me or something like that, you can leave. Thankfully, that doesn't happen very often, right? Because we believe that as a coaching team, we should help you pay for the program using the program within the first month that you get it. So if you don't have an idea that pays for the program or take action on something that pays for the program within the first month, then we don't think we've done our job properly. And so you can sign up for yearly, but you can also sign up for monthly. And that's all on entreleadership.com/all-access.
Yep. Welcome, Leighton and Scott, to All Access. Marshall or Marshall, I'm not sure which. How have you been able to get the team to emotionally buy in?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. What we see is that winning teams, regardless of size or stage of business, number one, they can always answer 3 questions. And it's important that the leader can answer these questions. So I want you to think if you have an answer to this, but then it's important that the team members can consistently be able to answer these questions the exact same way. Here's the questions. Why do we exist? Where are we going? And what do we stand for? And so why do we exist? That comes in the form of a mission, right? And so I guess I would ask, do you have a mission statement? And a mission statement is a purpose that we desperately believe in, that we will fight for, that we are not just checking in and doing a job. This is a crusade that we are on to fight for that mission. Simon Sinek would call it a just cause or a why, right? That's your mission. Then where are we going? That's your vision, and that's what we've talked a lot about today. And then what do we stand for is your core values. What that will do is that will start to create a cultural identity. And once you've created a cultural identity and you hammer home what the identity is, it's kind of like a family, right? When you have a family, it's like you really don't have to tell people, hey, I really need you to care about this family, right? It's like people know this is my family. Of course I care about these people because they stand for what I stand for. They're going the place that I'm going. They exist for the same reasons that I exist, and that binds people together. The other thing it's going to do, maybe you've got some people on the bus right now that are just opting in. All they want to do is a regular 8 to 5 job. That is fine as long as it happens somewhere else. If you want to be a mission-oriented company that stands for something and has people that are emotionally engaged, the first thing you have to do is identify who those people are and then invite them to leave because they no longer fit in, right? That's a powerful day when a leader makes that decision. But that's what I would say is the first step for emotional investment.
Yeah, make it worth their while. Find something that is their trigger in a good way that's going to say, yep, I'm all in, and that does point back to mission, does point back to values. Who are you? How do you execute in the marketplace? And do you have people on your team who agree with that? And if they agree with that, the mission you're on, they're going to follow you to the ends of the earth.
That's right.
And they're going to be carrying a lot of this weight and water for you up that hill.
Leighton, Scott, Heather, Wade, Diana, welcome to All Access. Again, for all of you that are signing up, make sure the first thing you're going to do is get an email to schedule your first one-on-one coaching call. Make sure you sign up for that call because that's where we're going to get to hear more about your business, where you're at, and lay out the action plan for you. Cody asked, can I get enough out of it in 3 to 6 months? Absolutely, especially depending on how much time you want to spend. There is so much, like you can go in and say, I want to learn learn about compensation, profit sharing, and delegation. And we've got so much content on how that works here. You could binge that content, get signed up for a mastermind. Absolutely. We think it will start to pay for itself in the first month, and it will create a self-perpetuating cycle.
Yeah.
Let's see here. How do you manage goals so they're not demotivating when it seems too big? So especially for those long-term goals, John, we connect with you. When you're setting goals that are too big, like you don't want people to be demotivated.
Yeah, and I think that was a couple years ago, admittedly, a little bit of a learning curve for EntreLeadership just as a team and the leadership, because we set this big goal, this kind of stretch goal that we missed, that I told you all about earlier. And we could tell, the team could tell probably around October.
Yeah.
November, maybe
we were a little bit off.
September, it's like,
yeah.
we're a little behind. October, we're like, we're behind. And, I think one of the big ways to kind of curb the demotivation is communication. I think the more you can talk about it, if you realize that, you know what, guys, we just set this goal and it was based off last year's growth, but that's really hard to sustain. And I'm giving a for instance. I don't know that this was the case here, but let's say last year we had 50% growth, and this year we go, oh, we did it last year, we're gonna do it again, another 50% growth. Is that doable? Is that sustainable? I think calling out the elephant in the room to say, we thought based on that we could do this. Turns out we're going to be a little bit short. Maybe even there's some recalibration that happens. I'm not saying you necessarily have to set a lower goal, but if it's June and you're less, you're like 30% of the way to the goal, but you're halfway through the year, it's like, man, we got to make up a lot of ground. You might recalibrate a little bit. I'm not saying make it totally achievable or super easy to get there. Still push your team a little bit, but I don't think there's anything wrong in being honest and transparent about what you thought you would be able to do in a year, and realizing sooner rather than later, and communicating it sooner rather than later, that you know what, we're going to miss the mark a little bit. That's what our leadership team did, and I think it as a team it helped all of us kind of reset mentally and go, okay, we're not going to hit that goal, but you know what, this one's still in range, so we had this goal and then the stretch and the stretch. So I'm talking, okay, we're not going to hit that stretch goal, but you know what? The stretch is still could be doable, and that goal, like, we're still going to be able to hit that, and that's still a tremendous year. And so again, I'm not saying candy coat it, I'm not saying make it up, but I also don't think it's bad to have to recalibrate if there's over communication that comes along with the recalibration.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think communicating as well, we would rather be the type of team that sets an aggressive goal that we occasionally don't hit than the one that sets a pansy goal that they hit every single time. Yeah. Right? That's what people want to be a part of. You don't have to hit it every time, right? Julie asked the question, do you feel like All Access is a good fit for businesses with young, part-time, short-term employees? Yeah, that is a unique challenge. I've got a couple of Chick-fil-A franchisees in my masterminds. I know Jackie, she's one of our best All Access members.
She just emailed me this morning.
Yeah, she owns an ice cream shop, right? And she's got a bunch of teenagers working for her. I would say culture is as important, if not more important, with part-time employees, just because there's so much fluidity in that type of work.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely, we have those people in the program.
Julie asks, how do you deliver the vision? How do you set goals, and how do you get buy-in when your team members are spread across the country?
That's a really good question. So I assume you work remotely, would be my assumption there. My assumption is that you're not having a weekly staff meeting in person if they're across the country. Yeah, there's a person in one of my masterminds, her name's Amanda Churchwell. You know Amanda. Yep. She's really active in our program, and she has a team that's entirely remote. And what she's recognized is that if she's going to create culture and create thriving team member engagement with a team that is entirely remote, is just going to require her to be almost 2 to 3x more intentional whenever it comes to communication and clarity. And so the way she's established it is she will have team meetings, right? And she will do it digitally via Zoom, and she'll meet with everyone and tell them, hey, here's where we're going, and she'll have everyone get emotionally invested and identify their part, just like you would have a normal staff meeting. But then she has it structured to where every single individual on the team also has a one-on-one meeting cadence with their direct leader digitally as well. And I think that's really important because every leader in Amanda's organization knows that everyone in the organization can connect their role that they're doing maybe at home in their pajamas at their computer every day because they work remotely, that they can connect that work to the big vision that Amanda casts. Yeah. And there's one-on-one meeting structure set up to make sure that they are doing exactly that. They communicate so much. Like, I don't know if I could do it. They communicate so much. But again, her culture is, lights out. Her remote culture is better than some in-person cultures.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of times, we work with a lot of folks who are remote and who have remote companies, and they come into the program thinking that, with this false belief that they can't have culture or they can't have a healthy culture because nobody's in the building. We're all remote. And it's, you got to stop and think. We're giving information today to thousands of you. Why can't you do the same? It's a matter of you running the calendar, not letting the calendar run you. It's setting the standard. We have a staff meeting every Monday morning. That's 1,000 man hours just poof, gone, because we believe in the importance of making sure the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. So I would tell you, use technology to your advantage. Don't use it as an excuse that we're, and I'm not saying you are, but just that, we're remote, it's not a big deal. No, it's that much more important, to your point, to Amanda's point, 2 to 3 times more communication required than if you were in person for a remote company to really communicate 2 to 3 times more. It's work. It's not going to be easy. That's the game you signed up to play when not only when you started a business, but you chose a remote business. And I think there are huge pros to having a remote team. You may not think it, but there are some really, really huge pros that it's not all bad news. It's not all cons. And so I think you use it to your advantage. I love the idea of being able to work from home. I did it for years. I was self-employed and then worked from home, and I loved it. I was able to get work done, and I will tell you that when I was with that company working from home, the communication from the corporate office was less than desirable. It wasn't great, and I was part of the problem. I'm throwing myself under the bus because I didn't take it upon myself to communicate with the people who reported to me. The people who I reported to weren't great at communicating with me, and so it was kind of a mess. But looking back, I'm like, man, I wish I would have had the mindset that this can happen, and it can happen well, because that's the truth of the matter. Use technology to your advantage.
Absolutely. Karen, Catalina, Mike, Joanna, Julie, Joshua, welcome to All Access. Awesome. We're really, really excited to have you. Again, for all of you, make sure the first thing you do is go check your email for that option to sign up for the one-on-one coaching call. Get signed up for that because we really want to hear about your business, where you're at, and then lay out the kind of plan and start getting you moving forward to get you into a mastermind call. Also, Cheryl asked the question, is the coaching one-on-one and how often? John does a one-on-one kind of Q&A show every single day where you can call in and have a conversation with John every day about, you talk about everything in there, compensation, some of the team member issue things you've gotten. These are fascinating calls.
If you have a team member issue and you call, we call it Ask the Coach. It's from 1 to 2 o'clock every day. If you have a team member issue and you call me, let's just assume I'm going to tell you to fire the person. That tends to be my MO. I don't know. We've saved a couple, but if you're calling me thinking they're on the chopping block, they're probably on the chopping block.
But there's something to that. Like, a lot of times people just need the confirmation that they're thinking the right thing and that, like, am I okay to do this? So again, you have that weekly or that's daily call-in show that you're available to do. You've got webinars like this every single week on a different topic of business and leadership. And then you've got a mastermind, which is the one coach, the same coach every single time, and 6 to 10 other business owners. But every single time you get on that mastermind, the first thing we start with, we talked about it earlier, is one highlighter win from the past 30 days. Then here's your quarterly strategic priority. This is what you said you would do this quarter. What's your progress update? Are you ahead of pace, on pace, or behind pace? And what have you done since the last time we met? And then you get the chance to discuss your questions, your challenges, because if you're actually moving forward, you will have challenges. And then we finally always close out with action items. That's how that's structured, and that's the mastermind group. So all of that is within the All Access program.
And so the vast majority of our coaching is done in a group format. That's how we're able to keep the price so low because we do it in a group format. The daily show that I host is as close to one-on-one as you can get, and that's, we're calling in and talking through your blockers and your challenges in a 10 to 12 minute conversation, maybe a 15-minute conversation, help you work through some stuff and get you some action points and some talking points and some motivation to do it, that you can do it.
That's right. Let's see. Can you give examples of how to get buy-in from employees for your vision, goal, and dream? Do you set this, or does everyone come up with the vision, goal, and dream? That's what Stacy asks.
Stacy, the big kind of company-wide goal is set by leadership. There are opportunities on a sales team, for example. If you say we're shooting for $5 million this year, or $2 million this year, or $100,000 this year, whatever it is, there are ways to, I would encourage you to have your team pick their piece of the pie. So if you're setting the overall goal of $5 million, if you have 5 people on your sales team, the easy math says each person is going to be responsible for $1 million in sales to help us hit $5 million. What's actually true is Alex has been on the sales team for 2 years. I've been on the sales team for 6 months. For example, we have very different pipelines, very different skill set. He's probably much more gifted at sales than I am, because maybe I just don't even know the product that well yet. So maybe Alex, instead of taking $1 million, maybe he does $1.5 million, and maybe I set my goal at $500,000. So together we're tackling 2 of the 5 million, but it's our choice. It was our standard that we set, or our personal goal that we set, that's going to help the team get to the bigger goal and the bigger outcome. But I believe the vision, the mission and the vision need to be set by leadership, and oftentimes the annual goal needs to be set by leadership as well. The team gets to pick and choose, to an extent, what portion they are going to contribute to that. To hitting that goal.
That's right. And if you want to get team's input and want to make sure that, and you think you need that for team buy-in, I think there's just a slight difference in how you phrase it. There's a difference between going to your team and having a conversation of what could we set as a goal this year versus what should we have as a goal this year. If you ask them what should we have, they're going to give you a prescriptive answer. I think we should do this. And then anytime you don't choose their prescriptive answer, they're going to be like, what the heck? Why did you even ask? If you just say like, hey, let's just have a brainstorming discussion. What could we establish? What are the things that are possible? And you're just asking them to throw things out. That's a little bit of a different conversation, but again, it's on you to manage expectations, that just because you say it doesn't mean we're running with that. Excellent.
Welcome, Tom.
Tom, welcome to All Access. Welcome to John as well.
Oh,
again,
thanks.
That's right. That's right. Different John. That's right. Unless you just joined All Access as well.
Never know.
Excellent. Make sure you sign up for that one-on-one coaching call. Let's see here. When measuring for a nonprofit, would it be beneficial for the board and employees to have a shared visual, or should they have separate visuals? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I think it goes back to what we've had this last year. In 2019, we had one overall goal and we had a department goal. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think both parties should know what the other party is doing, what they're tackling and marching after, striving towards, for, if nothing else, then for accountability. I can tell you this much: I don't remember what our portion of the 3 million lives was, maybe 50, 60,000, something like that. Mm-hmm. If we ended the year at 20,000, you better believe there would be some conversations being had with leadership going, what the heck? You set out to do 60 and you were 33% of the way there. You hit 20,000. Like, that's not good. There's also, maybe not, but some of our leadership would be able to probably speak into, if leadership sets the overall goal and has an opinion about what we should do, what our portion of that goal should be. If they came and said, we think you should do 100,000 of the 3 million, our leadership could push back and say, okay, tell us how you got to that number. What were the metrics that you looked at from 2018 to base 2019's goal off of? And so there's a little bit of a give and take and a communication that happens around it. They're not just talking about it, they're communicating about it. If you don't think there's a difference between those two, go ask your spouse. Communication versus talking. But we're able to inform each other. We're able to have an open adult conversation about it, with, not like kids yelling at each other, but just to say, hey, this is what we think you should do. We could say, okay, great. How'd you come up with that? Or, hey, this is what we think you should do. We think you can do 20,000. We go, you know what? We can actually do 50. we can actually do 60. So invite the conversation to happen. Both parties know what's going on. Again, left hand knows what the right hand's doing. I think more communication is better. 9 times out of 10, yeah, there are conversations that certain parties don't need to be privy to, but 9 times out of 10, over communicate and you'll be just fine.
Absolutely. Ryan, welcome to All Access. We're really, really excited to have you. Welcome. Let's take this one.
Yeah, so Shamika says, how do you keep focus on the goals so that they don't get overshadowed by the work of the day-to-day business?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier, right? And specifically with Brian is the guy that was in my coaching group, is he kept getting dragged back into the day-to-day. And even though he knew he wanted to move the business forward, the whirlwind kept him from doing that. And so what we recommend, first of all, is to visually put it everywhere, right? You should not be able to escape this, right? It should be on your computer screen. It should be on Post-it notes. It should be plastered all over the office. Make sure you've got your goals for moving the business forward in front of you. But then again, we don't just want to establish the outcomes, right? A lot of times a goal comes in the form of an outcome. We're going to hit this revenue number. We're going to serve this many people. We want to make sure that we are just as intentional in measuring the actions that will create that desired future. So here's what I mean by that. What are the things that you can focus on that will move you towards that desired future? And then you need to make sure that those things are informing your calendar. That's what we call a quarterly strategic priority. It's what John was talking about earlier. When we establish a quarterly strategic priority here, we have a process we walk you through. And Shamika, I don't know if you're in All Access yet or not, but if you are, you know this, or you're going to establish this whenever you sign up. It's essentially going to walk you through, okay, what is the number one thing that if you were to add it or improve it over the course of the next quarter, we're establishing focus there. This is what we're focused on for the quarter. If you were to add it or improve it over the course of the next quarter, it would move you towards your long-term goal for the business, and it would add value to all other areas of the business. When we establish that thing, then the next thing that you have to do is you have to make sure you're not the only one that knows about it. Because if you establish your quarterly priority in isolation, you'll forget about it in a week. And it's not because you're doing bad things, you're doing good things, they're just not the best things. And so you need to make sure that you clarify what the best use of your time is whenever it comes to working on the business. And then every hour or 2 hours a week that you actually have to work on the business, you're focusing on that thing. And then you've got people saying, hey, did you do what you said you were going to do? Did you do what you said you're going to do? Quarterly strategic priority.
Welcome, Deanna. Welcome, Joyce, to All Access. Trina, hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, says, do you recommend individual productivity displays or just team? We actually have done both. Our sales department, if you were to walk through there, you would see individuals, their talk time, their number of phone calls they've made, but then we also are updated on where we are as a team, as a business unit. So I think both. If Alex and I were both on the sales team and I've made 8 calls that day and he's made 88 calls that day, I fully expect him to call my butt out. Be like, dude, why only 8 calls? There may be a very legitimate reason for that. Well, I was at the doctor this morning and I had back-to-back back meetings this afternoon. Oh, okay. So that's okay. That's a one-off scenario. But if every day I'm at 8, 7, 10, 12, low number of calls, and he's at 85, 71, he's crushing it, he needs to come talk to me. Even if he's not my leader, if he's just a peer, he needs to come and say, hey man, everything okay? I've noticed your calls are down, and I'm just, can I help? What can I do to get the numbers back up where they need to be? So I would make sure that, you have the team, everybody knows that, but then there's individual goals as well, because I think that's where true accountability happens, when there's transparency amongst the team and we all know how much weight we're supposed to be carrying, and we can tell if somebody's carrying too much, if somebody's getting overloaded, and if somebody's not carrying enough. I think there's reason and need for both of those.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And we have those for the coaching team as well.
We do.
Individual and collective, absolutely. Let's take this one. We are a pizzeria employing mostly high school students and young adults who aren't in college. Many of them have no vision for their own lives and just want to collect a paycheck. We are in an affluent community, and many of these kids don't need a job because their parents give them more allowance than they make working for us. us. How do I cast my vision to my extremely young team and get them to buy in? What are your thoughts there, John?
I would, yeah, thanks for that softball question. Honestly, Julie, I would ask them what motivates them. Why are they working? I would have conversations with them. Mom and dad give you allowance. You don't need this job. Why are you here? And you, in that scenario, Julie, you have to be careful of asking the question because there's an answer coming. And they very well might say, well, I'm just here for because my mom and dad need me out of the house, want me out of the house. And, well, okay. I will challenge you, Julie, if that's the answer. Those, even in a high school, short-term, temporary, after-school gig, those probably aren't the right people for you. Those probably aren't the kids that you want. You mentioned Jackie earlier. She owns an ice cream shop and employs mostly, if not almost exclusively, high school kids and a few college kids, say 16 to 20. And she has a great culture. She's actually creating a leadership development program, not for her ice cream shop, but for these kids when they get out of school, when they move on, they move out of town, they get the real job, quote unquote. She's creating a leadership development program. So I think there are ways, I know there are ways to get people to buy in, even if, especially high schoolers, even if they don't need the job. You have to figure out what motivates them. I would sit down and get to know your team. What do you want to do? What goals, what aspirations do you have? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's kind of a cheesy, overused question, but for somebody who's 16, 17, 18, it gets them thinking, and it allows for a conversation to happen for them to say, you know what? I've been thinking a lot about this, and I don't think this is the right place for me. Great. You just lost what we would call a donkey, and you want thoroughbreds. You don't want donkeys. And so the more you can, I know it's difficult. I've been there and trying to hire and find thoroughbreds. I know it's difficult, but slow the interview process down. Get more people involved in it. If you have a rock star or two, we talked about earlier, rewarding what you want repeated. Start to reward them for what they are doing. Start to reward those people, kind of the cream of the crop, for helping move your organization, your pizzeria, toward a goal that you're striving for.
Yeah.
And that's going to get noticed. If I say, Alex, man, you've crushed it again and again and again. And if I say, Teresa, I'm not gonna say this publicly, but like, you gotta pick it up a little bit. Like, you've been sucking, you've been slacking a little bit. If I start to reward him, and I'm having conversations with her, I'm not saying, hey, be more like Alex, but I'm saying, what's your motivation? How can I help you be more successful here? But I'm calling him out publicly. We're gonna praise publicly, and we're going to reprimand privately. Let's keep that in mind. But if I start to praise him publicly, it's just like raising kids. When my boys were little, I would say to one of them, man, thank you so much for putting your shoes on quickly. What do you think the other one does? Goes and gets his shoes on quickly because he wants to be praised publicly. Same thing applies with high school kids. They want to be known. They want to be seen. You talked about anonymity earlier. They don't want to be anonymous. They want to be known. They want to feel that they are important to you. So call them out. Tell them good job, attaboy, attagirl, reward them, and you'll start to see more of those behaviors repeated.
This question just made me think of this. I don't know if I've shared this with you before. When I was in high school, my first job was when I was 15 because my parents are good Americans and they told me you're going to get a job at 15.
Good for them.
So it was for a lifeguarding company, and I'll never forget in the interview room, they asked me the question, well, why do you want to work here, right? That's a pretty big question, right? And I'll never forget, I said, beats bagging groceries.
Did you get the job?
Okay, and here's the deal. Thank goodness they didn't write me off. I'm very grateful. I don't know that was a right decision or not, but they didn't write me off, right? They apparently needed someone to blow a whistle.
Sure,
so they hired me, and they led me to be really invested in that company, right? I think they saw other things in me in the interview process, but ultimately, I think I was reflecting on that experience with regard to this question. Every high schooler wants to be a part of something, right? And for some high schoolers, that's their football team. For some of them, it's the band. Why can't it be working at the coolest pizzeria in town? And that's what I'm a part of. And it's such a pleasure and such a good thing. And we use the word pleasure. Chick-fil-A is the shining example. Like, parents and kids take pride in working at Chick-fil-A. So, final question, will All Access help me decide what our priorities should be? Sharon, absolutely it will. That's going to be one of the first things we do on our phone call and the first course that we we walk you through is establishing your quarterly strategic priority. Hey, y'all, we'll leave that code open for a little bit. So again, it's the promo code GOALS to save $50 every single month, regardless of whether it's with us or with someone else. Make sure you've got some direction, make sure that you've got a plan, and make sure that you've got people who will hold you accountable to consistently executing on that plan. Thank you so much for a great webinar today. We really, really appreciate y'all for being on here, but more than that, for what you do every single day to add value and influence the teams and the communities that you work for. We appreciate you, we're rooting for you, and we'll see you again very soon.
Thanks, y'all.